A job offer I should like you to decline.
I decline your kind offer.
I shall pass on your regrets.
What was it?
MI6.
Hello, ma'am.
Place
Jaspreet,
of
ma'am.
Acic
Are you
East in New
there?
York. An undercover assignment that would prove fatal to you in, I think, about...
Mandeep?
मैम लेट मी कंफर्म.
हाँ नहीं, आप ये सर को थोड़ा सा गाइड कर लो. हाँ, स्क्रीन
नहीं नहीं मैं कर लूंगा.
यस मैम सर ठीक कर रहे हैं.
ठीक है.
मैं कर लूंगा.
I think
In case need be, I'll let you know.
Okay, sir. So विभा, आप बाकियों जो कंपेयरर्स हैं उनको रेडी करो, because within 2 minutes I think we should start.
Yes, ma'am. Sunidhi, she's
Sunidhi,
ready.
okay. Sunidhi is doing right. Okay, Sunidhi, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So we'll just wait for 1 more minute.
Yes, ma'am.
What you say, Vibha? We'll wait or we should start?
Ma'am, we can start because students are joining. मैंने confirm किया है. Within 1 or 2 minutes, more students will join.
Okay.
6 months.
Then why don't you want me to take it?
It's tempting. But on balance, you have more utility closer to home.
Utility? How do I have utility?
Here be dragons. This isn't agreeing with me. I'm going in.
You need low tar. Still smoke like a beginner.
Okay, madam. Am I sharing my screen with you now?
Yes, sir.
And audio video is okay, or do I need to make any adjustment?
Sir, audio is fine. Yes, sir. Sunidhi, I think you should start now.
Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon to one and all present over here. Thank you all for finding time and making your presence in today's webinar. I, Sunidhi Sharma, on behalf of GCT Jammu, welcome you on today's event, which is on the topic Entrepreneurship Skill, Attitude and Behavior. This webinar is being organized by Acic Rise Association Incubator, supported by Niti Aayog, Government of India, in collaboration with Startup Cell of Government College of Engineering and Technology, Jammu, under the banner of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav.
What the hell?
A very
am I
special
supposed
welcome
say
to our
that?
guest speaker, Dr. J.S. Seni, former professor and
Merry
head,
Christmas.
You hate
EDC
Christmas.
Cell,
Yes.
NITTTR, Chandigarh.
Perhaps
He
there was
worked
something in
as
the punch.
MGT
Clearly.
trainee for a
Go and
year
have some more.
in private limited corporation, as consultant in a PSU consultancy organization for 5 years, as associate professor, and dean for 34 years in NITTTR Chandigarh. He has published 15 textbooks, 20 modules, and supervised 4 PhD scholars. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation to address our students
Mary's
who are about to start another new chapter in their lives.
Oh, all the punch.
I would like to thank Dr. Amrish Kumar, Vertical Head, Manufacturing Engineering, ACIC Rise Association. He's an enthusiastic teacher and mentor
Don't worry,
for emerging
Wiggins is an
startups.
excellent
He has
chemist.
facilitated many research projects and got 25 publications in reputed journals and got 1 patent guaranteed and 8 patents published to his name.
Deal.
Mr. Sonu Kadam, young professional AIM at ACIC Rise Association. He has done his master's degree in mechanical engineering with specialization in
I am in
manufacturing
hospital.
engineering
This is the
from
canteen.
IIT Ropar, Punjab.
Is it?
His
In my opinion,
area of
yes.
expertise
Have a
are
seat.
3D printing technology, surface engineering, powder
I've been thinking
metallurgy,
about you.
startup,
thinking
entrepreneurship,
about you.
idea generation, IPR, and etc. Thank you so much, sir, for coordinating with us in organizing such
I
functions.
want to see Appledore.
I express
you
my
keep
gratitude
all
to our
the
esteemed
secrets, all the
principal, ma'am,
files,
Dr.
everything
Sameeru
you've got on
Sharma,
everyone.
for their approval.
I want you
At last,
to
a
invite
heartfelt
me.
thanks to our esteemed faculty members, Dr.
makes you
Bhavna
think I'd be
Sharma,
so careless?
Engineer Sheetal Gandotra,
Oh,
Engineer
I think
Sanjeev
you're more
Gupta, and
careless
Dr. Vibha Mahajan,
than you let on.
without whom we would be incomplete as students. They were always here to assist and advise us in unimaginable ways. They have assisted us in not just our development, but also in enhancing our creativity and knowledge.
Dead-eyed, is it?
Before starting this event, just a little housekeeping. If you have any query or any question during this event, please type it in the chat box. I'll bring them up during the event if necessary. Or we will tell them at the time of the answer session at the end. Also, I request everybody to kindly mute themselves unless or until told not to do so. Now I'll turn the mic to our speaker. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for a very elaborate introduction. Well, on the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Amrish, coordinating team here at Landra and coordinating team at Jammu, especially the principal and coordinator of this particular event, Dr. Bhamana, then Madam Mahajan, and all other associated with this particular event. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have this 1.5 hour session on entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial, wherein we are going to touch upon entrepreneurial skill, attitude, and behavior. Well, let me tell you a little more about my work so that you can ask the questions accordingly. Having done my commerce and thereafter MBA way back in 1978, I joined a private limited company at Chandigarh, where I worked for about a year as management trainee in personnel department and had the experience of working in industry and understanding the functions of personnel department, be it recruitment, selection, training, compensation, or facing union, or taking disciplinary actions, or all that sort of activity, and dealing with variety of inspectors who visit industry. Then, having spent about a year thereafter I switched over to my second job, which was at Guwahati, and I joined as a young professional, and thereafter was promoted as a consultant, consultant grade 1 and consultant grade 2. So in my second job at Guwahati, so my inning basically started with this thing. Other than providing techno-managerial consultancy to small and medium enterprises, we initiated action with regard to promoting entrepreneurship in Northeastern region. And that was the time, I'm talking of 1979. At that time, very few people knew much about entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship was something sort of new concept at that time. There was a Center for Entrepreneurship Development established at Gujarat, and in 1982 we had my organization, national, which was known as NITCO, Northeastern Industrial and Technical Consultancy Organization, a subsidiary of Industrial Development Bank of India. So we had a tie-up, sort of this agreement with the Center for Entrepreneurship Gujarat, and we had an arrangement of getting entrepreneurship program conducted in Assam. As you would know, entrepreneurship was not much practiced by local youth in Northeast till that time. And the idea was, if Gujarat-based entrepreneurship institute, they come over to Guwahati, and maybe having identified potential entrepreneurs, having given them some training, and then if they are taken to Gujarat for giving them exposure and making them rub their shoulders with Gujarati entrepreneurs, so probably they'll pick up some tricks of the trade, and back home they would be in a position to promote enterprises based on local demand and based on local this thing, infrastructure, demand, and utilizing the latent potential of this thing, entrepreneurs in Northeastern region. So 1982 to 1984, we conducted almost half a dozen program over there, and that was my beginning of getting associated with entrepreneurship development program. So thereafter, based on the kind of work which I had done over there, in fact, other than this entrepreneurship development, I had the opportunity of working in different type of projects, and we used to take turnkey projects in Northeast. Turnkey project would mean the entrepreneur, potential entrepreneur, walks in with an idea, doesn't have time to make so much of running around with for setting up that enterprise. So we used to take such assignments from entrepreneur. We used to conduct market survey, prepare business plan, then complete documentation with regard to submitting that business plan to bank, and we used to follow up on behalf of the entrepreneur. Then loan gets sanctioned, and thereafter, once the loan is sanctioned, then purchase of machinery, then construction of building, etc., procurement of machinery, installation, and having trial run. So once the trial runs were over, thereafter, having established the unit, then it used to be handed over to the entrepreneur. So we had the experience of implementing one yarn dye house at Guwahati. We had the experience of implementing one cement plant in Arunachal Pradesh, another cement plant in Nagaland. So, and one Vanaspati plant at Guwahati. So, I used to look after the commercial aspect and material procurement aspect of that kind of project. So, based on this kind of experience which I had over there, so in the meantime, it so happened the same entrepreneur EDIC later on, which was converted into Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India at Ahmedabad, right? EDIC, of course, is still it used to continue, but then the director of CED Gujarat was instrumental in establishing an national level apex institute in the area of entrepreneurship, and that institute was established in 1981 or 82, known as Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India. So, since I had the experience of working with EDIC and EDII Ahmedabad, and it so happened EDII Ahmedabad, they had a collaboration with NITER Chandigarh, and the kind of experiment which we were conducting in Northeast. So, NITER Chandigarh wanted to conduct some 3 to 4 programs to train science and technology entrepreneurs at Chandigarh. So for that matter, the Entrepreneurship Development Department was established at NITER Chandigarh, and they were to recruit faculty. And based on my expertise and my background, so I got applied for the post of associate professor, that time assistant professor, and got selected as assistant professor in entrepreneurship development and joined NITER Chandigarh in 1984. And thereafter, I was supposed to be full-time working in the area of entrepreneurship. So it's in light of my background that I become relevant to talk to you on entrepreneurship, this important topic of entrepreneurship today. And much of the talk which we will be having today, of course, any academicians would study a lot, but I would say much of the discussion which is going to take place and the kind of expertise which I developed in the area of entrepreneurship over the years, it is, I would say, hands-on sort of experience. And today I want to also share with you, I basically teach entrepreneurship, but my elder son, who is now 40 years old, he was after completing his education, worked with some multinational company, and way back in 2016, he was working as country head in Tokyo, had a hefty package of almost ₹1 crore per annum, and he decided to quit his job and then start his own enterprise. And my elder son, he has his own enterprise now. He has his own company, and they are basically in the business of producing and making available health-related projects. So probably directly or indirectly, I have made some contribution in motivating him, and he is, I'm sure he is going to be a grand success in his business. So that further adds to my confidence of being in the field of entrepreneurship and interacting with any potential group of entrepreneurs. Then I suppose most of the participants in this session are first year student, and also I want to tell you, you see, gone are the days when people used to pass out and get easy job in government and public sector undertakings, also in private sector. You see, last few days, particularly after liberalization, privatization, and globalization of Indian economy, no doubt India as a country has progressed a lot. We are in fact fifth or fourth largest industrial economy in the world, and a lot of progress has taken place. A lot of industrial infrastructure has been created out also. But the fact remains, last 30 years, people, economists agree with this thing. By and large, it has been a jobless growth. But if you look back, you would also realize during last 25 years or so, a lot of investment has gone into technical education, and at the beginning of second decade of ongoing century, the total intake in engineering colleges was of the order of almost 18 lakh or so, which of course has now come down, and maybe at present hardly 12 to 13 lakh people they are getting admitted. So there has been reduction because when the private education was thrown open, so private investment started coming into being, and it came like a flood, and lot many engineering colleges had come up, and now because of that glut and lot of competition and not many jobs forthcoming for engineers, so naturally now there's a capacity reduction, and some of the engineering colleges, management institutions, polytechnics, and other technical institutions, they are getting closed. But my idea is not to discourage you. I am here to basically motivate you to, whether you get government job or not, that's a different thing. But I am sure many of you are definitely capable of starting your own enterprises. And let me tell you, our potential only remains underutilized so long as we are working in job. So what happens is, when you are working for someone else, so you never ever fully utilize your potential. But when you get into your own enterprise, you are master of your own, and you know if you are putting in hard work, if you are working smart, if you are doing something innovative, and your initiatives are definitely going to be rewarded. So naturally, that reward is something which keeps on motivating you. So, ladies and gentlemen, entrepreneurship, I would say, entrepreneurship is not everybody's cup of tea, but at the same time, I would say it's not something which is impossible. And given little instinct of entrepreneurship amongst our youth, we can definitely help those young people in sharpening their entrepreneurial talent. So if you believe in this thing, and I would also like to share with you, entrepreneurship is something which exists in all cross sections of society, in all region, in all religions, in all countries, and it's a matter of basically catching. If you can catch hold of those young people, if you can put them on the right track, so they can definitely do wonders. And last few years, even despite this pandemic, you must have seen, you must have read the news headline. So India had started record startup, what they call them as this thing, unicorn organizations. A record number of more than 50 unicorn organizations have come up in India during 2020, which happened to be, the period of pandemic. So year 2020 and 2021, they have been too good so far as conceiving new ideas are concerned, and looking for solution of problems faced by the society are concerned. And entrepreneurs do nothing but they are basically, they pick up the problem of the society at large, try to solve those problems, and they then convert them into a viable business model wherein they thrive, and they definitely make the benefit of that reach to the community at large. So I am sure many of you, whether or not you like it, I am sure many of you are definitely going to go for entrepreneurship and self-employment. There are others who would feel probably more comfortable in jobs. And my best wishes to those who want to go for salaried career, and my best wishes to all those who would like to get into their own enterprises. but you would probably get convinced with this thing. Those who get into their own enterprises, they are the people who really do wonders. And for them, in terms of achievement, I would say sky is the limit. There's no end of this thing, achieving greater heights. So let's get into the formal presentation now. If I have to explain the concept of entrepreneurship, wherein we are going to, basically talk about entrepreneurship, basic introduction, then entrepreneurial competencies or traits or qualities. So all these we are going to discuss about how does entrepreneur behave, how is it entrepreneur is different than non-entrepreneurial person, way of thinking, way of working, uh, way of solving problems. Also, all these things we are going to discuss in this session. And I would encourage you to put queries, come out with questions. You can even in between also, you can ask me to stop and you can ask question. Alternatively, you can keep on noting down your questions, and towards end, maybe we'll have 10 to 15 minutes interaction, and you can then ask the questions. So when I have to explain entrepreneurship, I would start basically with this thing, what entrepreneurship is not and what it is. So let us first of all talk about what entrepreneurship is not. So please remember, entrepreneurship is not, religion specific. It is not region specific. It's not area specific, or it's not country specific. That would mean the entrepreneurship is something which can flourish in any religion, in any region, in any area, any country of the world. So you talk of westernized world, or you talk of eastern economies, you talk of Africa, Europe, Canada, or Asia. So there would be good number of entrepreneurs everywhere, and entrepreneurship has nothing to do with religion. It's not that Christians, in Christianity you'll find more entrepreneurs, or in say this thing, Hinduism, or for that matter Sikhism, or for that matter any religion. So entrepreneurship is something, enterprising people would be found belonging to all religions of which exist there in the world, and in different areas and different countries. So entrepreneurship is not country specific. It's not area specific. So areas and countries just can't define the boundaries of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs, they exist everywhere. So this is one. Second, entrepreneurship is not qualification specific. So you must have seen this thing, the late Shri Dhirubhai Ambani, the creator of Reliance Industry. So he was a person who was just a matriculate, okay? And we have seen so many other entrepreneurs, be it the proprietor of Renvexi, which we can rightfully claim was one of the, multinational pharmaceutical company of Indian origin. Now, of course, Ranbaxy has been sold and name has changed. It's now Sun Pharma, and Ranbaxy just doesn't exist. Ownership has changed. Old guards have, vacated the place for next generation, and some changes have taken place. But when it was thriving during the first decade of this century, so at that time it was a company of real, this thing. Which had its operation in different countries, and it was emerging as a multinational company. So the proprietor of that company was not much educated. Proprietor of Apollo Tire was not that educated. There are so many, you talk about Tata, Birla, Dalmias, Bajaj, JK, Singhanias and all these groups, the earlier generations were not that educated, but they had that entrepreneurial instinct. Okay. So, so far as entrepreneurship is concerned, entrepreneurship has nothing to do with qualification. Of course, in today's time, when we make extensive use of information and communication technology, so I suppose certain bare minimum qualification is required. Otherwise, if you can make use of technology, so that's good enough. And education doesn't really come in your way. It doesn't hinder your entrepreneurial capabilities. Then the third thing, entrepreneurship is not gender specific. You must have seen this thing nowadays, particularly now. Women are competing with men in establishing businesses, and they are working neck to neck, sort of. So, in fact, if you have seen, I don't know how many of you would have seen, there used to be a program during last 1.5 months or so. This program was known as Shark Tank India. It used to come on Sony from 9 to 10 o'clock every day. And in that Shark Tank, basically the idea was there was a panel of almost seven sharks, and those sharks were nothing but they were basically sort of venture capitalists or people who had amassed a lot of wealth and a lot of experience they had of running their own businesses. And now, because they have a lot of investable surplus available with them, so they were encouraging, they were providing equity support or loan support to entrepreneurs who needed money or who were in the process of struggling, and they were prepared to mentor those enterprises. So this program used to appear, used to come on from 9 to 10 o'clock. Maybe some of you would have seen it, or in case you have not seen it, so you can always go to YouTube and you can find out all those episodes. And there's a lot of learning so far as entrepreneurship is concerned. So I was talking about basically those 7 person who were working as the venture capitalist or capital providers or mentorship provider to young entrepreneurs. So there were 4 male and 3 females, and they did. I think so. They must have uh, assisted during this 1.5 month or so. They must have given financial assistance to more than 60 to 70 enterprises or so. And that assistance was many a time in crores, sometime in millions only. Okay. So far as money, many a time people get restricted and they keep on getting worried about this thing. I have good ideas, but I do not have adequate money for that. So if the ideas are good, so you can always mobilize for money for that. So money that way is not a problem. Nowadays, there are so many venture capitalists. There are number of subsidies, incentives, and facilities given by the government. Then there are other type of support and incentives given by the government, and bank also are quite liberal in providing finance nowadays. Then there are state financial corporation and other developmental institution, and there are some special state level corporations, especially for say lower strata or economically weaker sections of the society. So funding, if I would say, if your idea is good, nowadays there are plenty of people to support that idea. So I have discussed with you what entrepreneurship is not. So remember, it's not country specific, religion specific, qualification specific, and it's not gender specific also. Both male and female, they have equally good opportunity of being successful in enterprise, in setting up on enterprise and running it successfully. In fact, last week only, I was in the process of evaluating some of the this thing ideas pertaining to this thing, new business idea. So, give yourself a message. So both male and female, they have equally good opportunity of succeeding like an entrepreneur. Okay. Now come to, I have discussed with you what entrepreneurship is not. Let's discuss then what is it? What is it? What entrepreneurship is? Remember, entrepreneurship is a state of mind. You see, entrepreneurs do not look different than the non-entrepreneurial person. But then I would say the entrepreneurship is something which is here. It's in your mind. It's in your entrepreneurship is in your thought process. So you would find the idea or the thought process of a person who is a potential entrepreneur, his thought process is altogether different. Many a time non-entrepreneurial people feel about entrepreneur, this fellow seems to be somewhat, हवा में बातें करता है. So this fellow keeps on daydreaming. that sort of comments you will hear about the enterprising people. So, but then it's not that ये व्यक्ति जो है ये हवा में बात कर रहा है और this person basically believes in daydreaming, ऐसा कुछ नहीं. So, but then that's basically the kind of thought process which this person possesses. So, entrepreneurship is basically something which gets reflected in your thought, it gets reflected in your talk, it gets reflected in your different approaches. Next is your entrepreneurship is in your action, the way you work, the way you approach different situations, the way you solve problems. All these things, they give us give us some indication about your entrepreneurial personality. So entrepreneurship is something which gets reflected in your action. Then entrepreneurship is nothing but it is something thinking big. As I was telling you, the thinking, this thing, sort of daydreaming. Look to the importance of daydreaming and thinking big. You see, if you daydream and if you think big, perhaps if you can imagine something big, you can accordingly plan. And if you plan, you can always go for executing your plan or making it happen. That's what I mean by execution of plan. And if you execute your plan, so then naturally there are two possibilities: either you will succeed or you will fail. But the fact is, if you are fully involved in any project and you are putting all your hard work, you are stretching yourself, you are giving your maximum, you are paying all kind of attention, making all possible efforts, okay, seeking all help from different cross sections of the society for making it a success. So if you are doing all that, then naturally you are improving the chances of your being successful in that activity. So entrepreneurs are the kind of people who basically believe in thinking big. And towards end of this session, in fact, last two slides of my presentation, they pertain to helping entrepreneur in understanding their own personality and finding out whether they belong to a big thinking category or they belong to a petty thinkers category. If some of you want to become successful entrepreneur, so if you belong to big thinkers category, very good. If you do not belong to big thinkers category, so then naturally you got to shift from petty thinkers category to a big thinkers category. And how do we find out whether you belong to big thinkers category or petty thinkers category? That we would be discussing towards end of this session. That's part of this presentation. Then entrepreneurship is taking calculated risk. Lot many people, they say there is no profit without risk. So more the risk, higher the profit. So entrepreneurship basically is taking risk. Many of us keep on weighing this thing, ideas, and at times we feel like getting into that, but then maybe when we look back, we are a little afraid of what will happen if I do not succeed. So, and when you start asking yourself, what is going to happen if I do not succeed? So that's something which demotivates you. But enterprising people, they are in the habit of taking risks, and they would definitely take a plunge. And having taken the plunge, it's quite possible, not that you are going to succeed in the very first attempt. That may not happen. But if you are determined, if you exhibit certain amount of perseverance and commitment, so you are doing nothing but you are basically improving your chances of being successful in that business. Okay. So entrepreneurship is taking calculated risk. Here I would like to tell you, enterprising people, they are the kind of people who do not believe in gambling kind of activity. Okay. Gambling is something, extreme risk situation. They are the kind of people who basically believe in initiating thing and They feel if I invest all my efforts, if I really work very hard and I stretch myself, I take care of all possible difficulties, the chances are I can definitely improve the ultimate outcome, or I can influence the ultimate outcome of the pursuit. So, if I do not do that, then the failure is more or less certain. Okay. So they enterprising people, they are the one who do not take the who do not operate in upper extreme risk situation. At the same time, they would not like to get into tasks which are too easy to perform, or least risk situation, I would say. They would like to be somewhere in between. So, because taking unlimited risk, too much risk means you are basically trying to avoid the success. And getting into say least risk situation would mean it is not going to provide you any thrill. It's not going to provide you any challenge. So enterprising people, they basically enjoy that excitement of challenge. Okay, and they would like to put themselves in sort of challenging situation, and wherein the situation calls for your total commitment, dedication, hard work, working smart, and all. So all these things are required. Then next is entrepreneurship is learning from experiences. You see, not that entrepreneurs don't make mistake. All of us do make mistake, but there are some people, there are some personalities. Basically the kind of people who would keep on repeating the same mistake time and again. But for an entrepreneurial person, enterprising person, mistake once made is going to become a permanent learning experience. So this person is going to learn from that mistake and going to internalize that process, and ultimately he or she will see to it that that particular mistake which he or she has made once is not going to be repeated in future. And the last one is entrepreneurship is practicing unconventional things. Entrepreneurship, enterprising people, you would notice they would be found doing things which usually people don't do. Okay, they would be conceiving the kind of idea which usually by and large other people don't conceive. Okay, and remember one thing, they basically believe in problem solving, they make use of their creativity. And today, if you talk about this thing, any new product hitting the marketplace, any new service being provided, okay, or coming to the market, so all these new products and services, they are the outcome of innovative thinking, unconventional thinking of some person sitting somewhere in the nook corner of the world. You got to understand the importance of going unconventional. Some people also call it as out of box thinking, okay, or creative thinking. So long as you are working on some project, and so long as you are only making use of conventional approaches, you would only get the established result. But the moment you try something unconventional, the moment you try something which nobody has ever tried, so you will be struck with something new. And that something new is nothing but that can be, it could be a new product or new service. And if you are the first entrant, so naturally you will have the benefit of being the first entrant to the market, and you will reap a rich harvest. Okay. Now, a few definition about, because we have to discuss about entrepreneurial behavior or entrepreneurial action or understand their personality. So a few definitions which I am going to discuss with you, they are going to give us little insight into entrepreneurial personality. I picked up the first definition from Webster's dictionary, and it says, who is an entrepreneur? He is an organizer of an economic venture, especially one who organizes, owns, manages, and assumes the risk of business. See, this basic definition basically is describing what sort of function an entrepreneur carries out. So he organizes an economic activity. He owns, by owns, I mean, good or bad, it all belongs to him. Profit or loss, it all belongs to him. And then he is the overall manager of this thing and assumes the risk of business. I have already explained the concept of risk taking. So risk means if the business is failing, he or she is going to take the total responsibility for that. If it is succeeding, again, he or she would like to look back and find out which of my personality traits have really helped me in becoming successful in this particular business. The second definition I have taken from Funk and Wagner Standard Dictionary, which is more or less like the earlier one, and it says entrepreneur. Who is an entrepreneur? One who undertakes to start and conduct an enterprise. Enterprise is nothing but a business entity or industrial entity, okay, wherein you have profit as the motive. So, one who undertakes to start and conduct an enterprise or business, assuming full control and risk. So, this full control and risk is nothing but you are the overall manager and you are assuming the total responsibility and you are prepared to, this thing, you are prepared to accept the success or failure of that venture. The third definition I have taken from a renowned economist J.S. Mill, and Mill considers direction, control, superintendence, and risk bearing as the four important entrepreneurial functions. So, giving direction, yeah, and that's nothing but getting the work done with regard to your enterprise. Controlling basically, be it controlling your manpower, controlling your listening clients, or having control over distributors, any kind of control, or control over your finances, all kind of control mechanism. Superintendence is nothing but day-to-day supervision and risk bearing. So you have seen in all these three definitions which we have discussed so far, risk bearing is something which is common and ownership is something which is common. Okay. A more elaborate definition of entrepreneurship is given by one economist known as Joseph Schumpeter. And Joseph Schumpeter stresses on the role of innovation in defining the entrepreneur. In fact, Schumpeter is of the opinion that entrepreneurship cannot flourish unless you exhibit certain amount of innovation and creativity. So, innovation and creativity, as per him, are the crux of entrepreneurial life. And the definition which he has given is the entrepreneurship is a creative activity. The entrepreneur being an innovator who introduces something new into the economy. The entrepreneur वो व्यक्ति होगा, the one who thinks creatively, who makes application of that creativity, and ultimately as a result of that application of creativity, ultimately you find this person coming out with something innovative. He is the one who introduces new products, new services, new way of doing business into the economy. So first thing is he introduces something new into the economy. And when we talk about something new being introduced in the economy, it could be a new method of production not yet tested by the experience in the branch of manufacture concerned. One of the example of innovativeness or making use of or application of creativity could be suppose there are, let us assume, say this ball pen. Suppose there are 10 manufacturers of this ball pen and they are having the same standardized method of production producing this ball pen. But here comes the 11th person, and this 11th person also manufactures the same, same ball pen, but he makes use of a different method of production. Or say in chemical industry, there may be 10 entrepreneurs producing a particular chemical by making use of a established this thing formula, established method of production. But a new person may come and this new person may produce the same thing, but having a different formula, having a different sort of access to technology or different method of doing that business. So this something uniqueness or this thing. So newness could also be in the form of a new method of production not yet tested by the experience in manufacturing concern. Others are also manufacturing the same thing, but you are manufacturing it following a new method of production. So innovativeness or application of creativity could be reflected in production processes as well, or it could be a new product with which the consumers are not familiar. You as an entrepreneur, you try to introduce a product which was not at all existing in the marketplace earlier. And nowadays we find so many new technologies, so many new products, so many new this thing new products hitting the marketplace, services hitting the marketplace. Yesterday only on WhatsApp, I was seeing there was a video which some 4 to 5 minutes video. One scientist, engineer from Hyderabad or Andhra Pradesh or some other place. So this person has developed a technique of producing power without making use of any fossil fuels or without making use of water. So no coal is required, no thermal power, no hydropower, and the technology which this person has developed doesn't call for use of any kind of fossil fuel. And because it doesn't make use of any fossil fuel, naturally there won't